All right, Robert, unlike my voice, you know what has not been derailed?
The recession.
Oh, you jump really quickly into that. So on this episode of Real Estate Chat with
Jonder Perez.
and Robert Eid, we're going to be talking about the looming recession that is coming. Okay, we enough scary stuff. There's enough scary stuff going on this week as we've been recording this. But anyway, into the news, Robert shared this article from the Financial Post. David Rosenberg says the recession has been delayed, but it has not been derailed. So a lot of real estate chat viewers who have clicked like and subscribe. We've been talking about the possibility of recession. Now, mind you, we are not economists, we are real estate brokers. But this affects not only real estate, but affects everything, everybody, right? So the year 2023 has been a soft landing transition, much like 2007. Consensus says that many market participants assumed the recession would never come. So maybe we skip a recession this time around. But what this article is saying, what Mr. Rosenberg is saying, is that we are on a bridge morphing from expansion phase to the contraction phase. So it's merely a transition, right? And very lengthy article. Robert pointed out rightfully that this was more condensed. It would probably be an easier read, and everybody would be educated about what's going on. And that's what we're going to try to do in this episode, talking about this time around, no asset bubbles, but both the housing and equity markets are more expensive today, by the way, relative to incomes and profits than they were in the 2006, 2007 bubble peaks. Banks are very well capitalized today, so we don't worry about the banks, but it's the non-bank shadow financing market, private debt equity, leverage loans, right? We don't know what's going on in those fields. And in the mid-2000 cycles, there were endless tales being spun that we're headed into a new super cycle of inflation. We've seen a bit of that happening, right? So there's one quote here, Robert, maybe remind me what I said earlier, but I think it was just saying basically that, recession has been delayed, but it has not been real. Again, going back to the title. So we'll let you read through this article if you want. Robert and I will go through it and talk about certain things. Robert, first question is this. We've had our real estate chat viewers here for I think now what, a year and a half
Well,
ish
yeah, yeah, something like
about that, right? And we've seen the market go to peak. We wish we started a long time ago because we would have documented everything that's gone on. But now we're looking at the gloom and doom, the bubble bursting, the collapse, the recession. Robert, you've been through recessions, you've been through up and down markets. Is this an extraordinarily scary market to be in? Should we, as real estate chat viewers, be concerned?
From a real estate standpoint, no. From a whole world aspect, perhaps. We are living in an ideal situation in Toronto, in Canada, in North America, where apart from a few months of snow that we have all the infrastructure in place to deal with, you can't beat it. Now, the reason that we're having trouble now is because things got out of whack for a while. Some people would say it got out of whack for a while during the low rate lockdown. Other people would say it got out of whack since 2008 or 2007. Other people would say it's been out of whack since 2001. And I say it's been out of whack since 1996. So some of us are right and some of us are wrong. Others would say it's been out of whack since 1973. Others would say it's been out of whack since 1933 when the Americans went off the gold standard. So what everybody who writes an article, and Mr. David Rosenberg is known as a perma bear. He's been around writing articles for easy 30 years, maybe longer than that. And he's been notable for the same amount of time of being one to look for the signals that could be a harbinger of bad tidings. And just like everybody else, sometimes he's right, sometimes he's wrong. Sometimes he's wrong because the government does a dipsy doodle, and just like they did in 2008 in the United States and here in 2008 and 9, they do an action that would be unconscionable 50 years ago, 25 years ago, 10 years ago, where they just expand the money supply beyond anyone's dreams. They just say, we are going to do money printing, but we call it by another name. And so one of these days, the price has going to have to be rationalized, meaning it's going to have a true value according to what you've got, the item itself, and what can be purchased with a similar amount of money that has a similar amount of utility. Now, we have a problem of affordability that we talked about a few times, and I say it's a triangle with, on one side, the price of the commodity, the real estate. On the other hand, it's the price of financing that entity, which causes a monthly payment to happen for people who don't have all cash. And then it's the available income for a typical family of that product. What are they earning in the current environment? But these things are out of whack, and that's why there's something called unaffordability. What happened was the price that was established was based on very low interest rates, and the monthly payment that was created by those two resulted in people who, even though their income could just barely afford it, thought that they could hang on at that rate for 5 or 10 years and everything would straighten out because their job will get better and their job will get paid more. And nobody actually said, well, we're at the bottom of the interest rate cycle and the top of the price cycle. What's going to happen next? And those who did, nobody wanted to listen to, and that's Dave Rosenberg. He said, look, there's a cycle. It happens again and again and again, and watch out for it. He can't come out and say, calamity coming tomorrow. He can't say that because he doesn't know the timing, and also because nobody wants to hear that. He'll never get his article published. He won't get paid any money. No one will come to his conferences. Neither can we. All we can say is be cautious. When you're at the top of a cycle, you've got to buy the premium product that is, if not irreplaceable, very hard to duplicate at that price point, and make sure that you can swing it, not only for the first 6 months, not only with a lender of third resort that will give you a 1-year financing so you can just lump along, but for 10 years, you can manage it and you can see it easily. Now, that's a very conservative approach, but guess what? In 10 years, you will still have it and you will still enjoy it. And while there will be a trough in between now and the 10 years, you'll be able to weather it out. Just as if you had bought it in 1963 or 73 or 83 or 93 and had a $200,000 mortgage. You don't care whether interest rates go to 12%. You can handle that. You've been there for a long time. So what are we talking about? We're talking about patience and punishment. If you can't be patient, then you'll be punished in the meantime.
Well, I mean, interesting points. And I think with the R word comes always a concern about budgets, about financial responsibility, about everybody doing what's right for them, not stretching themselves out, working within their means. Now, this may be an unrelated topic, but come 2024, the city of Toronto is going to slap on another land transfer tax on the, well, let's look at the luxury end of the market. Well, some people may not call 3 million enough luxury anymore because 1 million-ish, 1 million is average now, I guess, in Toronto, right, Robert? And 2-3 million is just slightly above average. So if you're looking at luxury, you're probably looking at 10-15 million. But Robert, in addition to this, you've got the recession looming, you've got, inflation, you've got interest rates. Now you've got the city wanting to tax you even more for land transfer tax. Where does it end? And doesn't this just affect the mindset of somebody wanting to buy a house, especially in this market where it's scary?
Nobody knows what they're going to decide and the reasons they're going to decide it 2 years from now, because they have not lived through those 2 years, because the 2 years intervening have never existed before in time. They've got no place to go back to say, what did my grandfather do at that time? What did my father do at that time? What did this mayor of Toronto do at that time? All of the policies that are being announced now are those that were crafted for last election, which was a long time ago, and don't apply anymore. However, they sound good. Lots of things when it comes to the political arena sound good, but are impossible. Now, the only one that's of interest to me at all in what's been announced that sound good, but might be tumultuous, is this will let you put a 6-story building on the main street, because they've got a map that shows almost every street that you like, Ellesmere, like Young Street, Bayview, every street that you can imagine is a main street. If it's got a yellow line down the middle, it's a main street. And that'll mean that you can tear down the houses 5 in a row and put up a 6-story building. And Ontario Building Code says you can build 6 stories out of wood. So that'll be interesting what they create. And it may be that if you're on the 2nd Street and you won't like it, the 3rd Street and you won't like it, and you go to the school and you won't like it, but it may be imposed on you. So if there's a terrible, terrible banking crisis for whatever reason, because there's been mischief in all kinds of secondary and tertiary style lenders for the last little while, nobody knows what they're going to do in 2 years. If everything works out nice, the fella at the Bank of Canada, who's been looking in the rearview mirror for the longest time, saying, the results of what I did a year ago, the results that are reflected that I currently have from 2.5 months ago, seem to say things are slowing down. And he'll forget for a minute that the CAW union is getting 21% or whatever the heck they're getting from their employer, and the public service are getting. He'll look ahead and say, what is the most probable thing for the future? And do I want to stop a trough from creating? Do I want to soften the blow, or do I want to go full steam ahead and wait till my result that I can only see a year after it's happened actually comes to fruition? He might want to do that, but I think he's going to be stopped before his term will run out, and there'll be an election. A lot of things will change.
Well, it's just ups and downs, right? And I guess, in
factors at play that we have never seen before, never mind what's happening around the world or in the United States, but the factors at play in Canada, we have never seen the confluence of different factors all at once.
A great point. And then modeling it is, of course, the biggest challenge. But I guess the underlying message here to everybody watching this is that these cycles come and go. And the question is, where are you going to be positioning yourself in this current cycle so that once we're back in, and once the recession is, let's say we go through it and it's over, like as what has transpired in the past, will you own that house on a main street that you can now convert into a 6 unit, as Robert explained it? Thanks for watching this episode of Real Estate Chat. Make sure you leave into the comments what you think, what your sentiment about the market is, and what you feel about the upcoming recession that has not been derailed. Thanks for watching. Take care, and bye for now.
Bye for everybody.